Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 2 of my Akusprite editor tutorials. This is where we're looking into my Akusprite editor, my free open source editor for graphics for these retro systems. So today we're going to have another look at the system. We looked last time at the basics of the user interface. This time we're going to go over each of the basic pixel painting commands, and we're going to look at what they actually mean. So let's go over to our other window and have a look at the program itself, and we'll have some fun with it. Okay, so the layout is basically that the left hand side of the screen has all of the functions that we have for pixel painting. So we're going to go over each of these in the most sensible order I think that we can do. So first of all is pixel painting. Now pixel painting is very straightforward. This is just for dot drawing of pixels. Now, as I've said before, I would highly recommend that if you want to do complex drawing, you use something like Krita, and you use copy and paste via the clipboard to transfer your data to and from the program. But for tweaking, we are obviously going to need a way of doing things. And we can use the mouse here, and if we've got pixel paint enabled, we can left click and we can draw in the foreground color. That's this one here. And change it just by clicking on a palette entry up here. And if I right click, I'm doing the background color, which is currently black, but we could right click here and select this dark color here and just color in here. Now, if we change our mind at any point, if I press the middle mouse, I can change the foreground color to the currently selected pixel here. Or if I've got a 5-button mouse, I can press mouse 4 to do the same, or mouse 5 to change the background color here. You can see they're changing up here as I'm clicking away. So we can use this to draw our pixel art, and this is supposed to be an eye, but it's not very convincing at this stage, is it? But such is my artistic ability potentially. So you can see here we're kind of drawing a very bloodshot eye here, but we are whatever, that'll do maybe. So that's the basics of pixel paint. Now with each of these tools we get a menu over here, a tool options, and you can see we've got check mode here. And it was set to off, which means we just pixel paint normally. But if we change this to 1/3, 2/3 or 3/3, we're effectively simulating extra colors. This is something for the ZX Spectrum and the 4-color systems really. And so if I start filling here, what we're doing is we're programmatically alternating between the foreground and the background color, depending on the pixel position, to simulate what I call as a checkerboard pattern here. So that's 1/3. 3/3 would do the opposite combination here. You can see now that the foreground and the background color are alternated. The idea would be that the foreground was maybe the lighter color and the background would be the darker. That's the logic for that. And then we can do 2/3, and this will create a fainter pattern where the background is much less used and the foreground is much more used here, you can see. So that's the purpose of these options here. It's to allow us to simulate extra colors, so that's what they're for there. Now that's the only option with pixel paint. ZX Paint, this relates to color attributes on the ZX Spectrum and other systems that use color attributes. So first of all, let's draw a little bit of a smiley face here. We've got some checkerboard patterns. I've forgotten to turn that off. So that's no problem though, that will actually help us. And then if we go here and we change to Spectrum mode here, and we actually want to make sure that we've got a spectrum color palette enabled up here. It should enable automatically, but if it doesn't, you would want to enable it. And you can see now that this image has changed to black and white because the spectrum uses 2 parts to its color components. There's a bitmap, which is black and white, and then there's color attributes. And ZX Paint is relating to setting those color attributes. Now up here we've got the color palette and we've got the brightness options. So maybe we want to have red on a blue background, so I click left mouse to select red here, right mouse to select blue as our background, and then we can have bright or dark here. I want bright. Now Akusprite Editor doesn't support flashing, so if you want that then you're on your own. I kind of don't see why you would, but if you do, you're going to have to find your own solution for that. And now what we can do is we can change the way that we actually draw our colors in. Now normal will set the color attributes and the pixels at the same time. So if I now draw a pupil in here, you'll see that everything has now been colored with that cell's color attributes from up here. So that would effectively do both at the same time. Now alternatively, we can just set the colors and leave the bitmap unchanged. So you can see now as I'm drawing, I'm effectively filling color attributes, and that's really the most useful mode for this, to fill in color attributes for a previously drawn image. Alternatively, if we want, we can set the pixel map without changing the color attributes at all. So you can see now I'm drawing pixels, but even if I change the color attributes aren't being set, and then I can go back to colors, and now I'm setting color attributes without setting the pixel map. Now this is called ZX Paint, but it does actually apply to other color maps as well. So if I select Apple here, and then I can select the color attributes from these two palettes up here, and now you can see I can paint the blocks using the Apple color palette instead. So as I say, ZX Paint is the name of it, but it's actually more powerful than that. Now if I just go back to 16 color mode here, and then we switch to the color swap option, this is another tool for recoloring images down from 16 colors, but this one is more geared towards recoloring for the Amstrad CPC, although you may need it for coloring the spectrum as well. Now this will effectively swap the color we click on with the color that is selected here. So for example, if I just click on green here and then I click on a white pixel here, you'll see that this entire block has changed the white color to green here. Now this is because it's set to block here, and block is always 8 by 8. If I change this to sprite, then we will effectively set the entire color to that new color within the sprite. This is great for if you're recoloring a 16 color sprite down to a 4 color sprite. I use this quite a lot. Now if it's set to sprite, it will do the entire sprite, but if it's set to all sprites, it will actually do every sprite within the current bank. Now we don't actually have any others, but maybe we could do some pixel painting here. If I just color in a bit of red there, and then if I go back to the last sprite here, and then we select this cyan here and do color swap all sprites, and then if I click here and then we go to next sprite, you'll see it's actually changed here as well. So if you're quickly recoloring all your sprites in one go, you might regret it, so save first, but you can recolor your entire sprite set with just a single click here. Now as well as that, we have an 8 by 1 option. This is designed for the MSX. The MSX of course has a very special color limitations, that it can only have 2 colors per line. So in this case you can see we can click here and we're now coloring individual lines of the block. So that's really quite special for the MSX. Now as well as all of this, we do have the checkerboard options again. So we can use the same checkerboard options and we can color entire blocks using those same checkerboard options that we discussed before. So again, this is for simulating colors. If you're converting your 16 color sprite down to your 4 color sprite, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, and in some cases you might want some kind of dithering. Now those are the only options for the checkerboarding, but there are some automated dithering options with regards to these kind of settings here, and these will actually in most cases save to the files automatically. So that's another thing you might want to consider. You've got spectrum dithering here to convert an image down to 2 color, and you've got 4 color dithering here, which I've used in some cases as a quick rush way of converting an image when I don't want to do the dirty work of manually retouching it, but retouching it would be of course the better option. So that's how we can do our color swaps. Now as well as our color swaps, we have a flood fill. Let's just move along a bit and let's find some new space here. Now if I just quickly draw in an area here, let's just draw a solidly blocked off area. Okay, now flood fill is exactly what you would expect here. If we just click on red here and we click on a pixel, it will fill an entire concealed area of that in that color. Now if we just change to magenta here and we click here, we will fill the entire sprite in magenta, which probably wouldn't be what we can want to do. Again, we've got checked mode options, so we can select a foreground, a background, and then if I just click here, we've now filled in a checkerboard pattern. Now I do have to point out that some of these checkerboard options do actually use color 255 as a bridge. The reason for that is that otherwise we can have some malfunctions where if we're filling an area with our own color, it was causing some infinite loops and things. So if you're using a 255 color palette with the checkerboard, you would potentially have some malfunction with color 255, but I'm thinking that's probably a rare case, but I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, we've got some basic flood fill options here. Okay, that's the flood fill. The final command is tile copy. Well, this is it's not a great command, I'll be honest. It's a limited command in the sense that it's not really what you might hope for. What it does is it allows for simple tile map functionality. The reason I say simple is because it effectively it allows us to simulate a tile map in the sense that we can convert a picture we've drawn into a tile map, and this was used by Chibi Aliens. I converted the title screen so that I could use it on 256 tile systems. So it really is only enough functionality for that kind of basic purpose. I'll explain how it works. Now, of course, if we're working with a tile map, we're going to have a bank of patterns, and we're going to have a picture we want to draw, and we're going to have a numeric map of that picture based on those patterns. We'd load the patterns into our pattern memory, and then we'd use the tile map to define the tiles within the visible tile map of our system, a system like the Game Boy or the NES, for example. That's what this does. Now, contrary to everything else that Akusprite Editor does, Sprite 0 in this case becomes the pattern map, and all the other sprites are potentially our tile maps. Now, let's say I want to draw a little metal box. So what I'm going to do here, if I just select a pixel here and go to Pixel Paint, and then I'm going to draw a kind of a screw here for the corner of the metal box. Just bear with me, that'll have to be as good as we can do here. And then in the middle of the box, maybe there's a label. So let's draw a little label here. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Color Swap, and I'm going to color the whole of this block. I'm going to color these three cyan. Now I want to make this crate 24 pixels by 24. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to copy these tiles into other places, and this is what the tile copy command does. So you can see here, here's our tools here, and if I right click on a tile, you'll see it copies into this area here. Now if I left click, I will paste what I've copied here into the bitmap here. So it's effectively a fast copy paste option for parts of our bitmap, and you could use it for that. As I say, it was designed for a tile map, but you can use it for whatever you want. So yeah, what I've done here is I've copied these tiles, and now we've got a little, what we're going to pretend is a crate. As I say, I know it looks rubbish, but this is the best I can do in this case. So we've got a little image here. Now what I can do now is if I press here, clear and add, what that will do is it will clear the pattern map in Sprite 0, add the unique 8x8 tiles patterns in this image, and it will create the tile map for us. So if I click this now, a box has popped up saying tile count 3. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. If I go to last sprite, you can see now that's our patterns. We'd want to export this and load these into our Game Boy or whatever system we were working on. And if we just open a notepad, and if I immediately do a paste, Control V, this is the tile map for the image we just drew, and we can confirm that if I just go last sprite here. Well, this is pattern 0, and that's the 4 corners. This is the solid area, and that's here, 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 and here, and that's the label in the middle, and that's appeared just here. Now, in addition, if we were to create another rendition of this image, for example, if we just create a new one just like this, and then if we go last sprite, and if we just take this and go next sprite. Now this time, rather than clear and add, I'm just going to click add. Our tile count hasn't gone up because we've not used any extra tiles. But if I paste again, we've now got a new tile map for this new image such that it is. So that's really the limits of this functionality. Now we do have 2 options. The default is 256 plus. This will use a single byte for the first 256 tiles, and then it will use 2 bytes for 512 and onwards. So that's a relatively efficient format. The alternative is nibble. We could use nibble in this case. It really depends on our tile map. This will only use a single nibble for each tile, so it's got a limit of 16 tiles. This was used by Chibi Aliens for the backgrounds. So if we just do add again, you can see our tile count is still 3. And if we paste here, you can now see that we're using just a single nibble here for our tiles. Now it's not really worked. This should really be should be a multiple of 2 here, so it's got a bit weird there, but it is to say it does work. Now let's say we wanted to use a new kind of tile. Let's say let's say we wanted to color swap and have these in green. Now if we went to our tile copy and we did clear plus add, that would delete the contents of this version here. So what we actually want to do is just add this time. Now the tile count has gone up to 4. If we go back to our first sprite, you can see a 4th tile's been added here. And if we paste again, you can see we're now using tile number 3 for that new green part here. And so that's what the tile copy is for. It's not great. It's not really good enough for you to create a massive game world, Super Mario style. It's not designed to be, I'm afraid. If I was going to do that kind of functionality, I'd write a separate tool to do that. If you were going to do that, you would need a definition of your pattern data, and then you would need to create a large map of the use of that pattern. This is really just simple functionality, as I say, designed for me to get Chibi Aliens done, and also for testing purposes for some of my other tutorials. So if you need more than that, you're going to have to look for your own solution or write your own solution at this stage. It may be something I look at later on, but at the moment I don't have a need for it, and I have other things I'm very busy doing, so I can't add infinite functionality. But anyway, there we go. So that's what I wanted to cover today. We've looked now at the basics of the simple tools and the user interface. As I said before, if you want to see the extra functionality, I'll just go back to the main window. If you click on help here, you'll get a message here. And then once you've clicked on that help, if you click on any of these just here, like this one, well, if I was connected to the internet, which I'm not, then it would open up a link to the website that has the documentation on that content there. So that's how you can quickly get to information on the more specific functionality, but we've gone over the basics here today. I hope you found this interesting. Akusprite Editor is free and open source, so if you want to grab it, just go ahead and download it from the link and mess with it and improve it if you want. Anyway, whatever you do, I hope you enjoy programming, and I hope you have fun with your graphics adventures. Thanks for watching today, and goodbye.